So we're gonna try to make sense of the social phenomena that never seems to get resolved, is that boys don't cry. Now you have both extremes on each end. From one end, you have the more left-leaning, aggressively empathetic side, where they claim that if you don't express your emotions, you're toxically masculine. You're trying to pretend to be something that you're not. And the other side sees it as, no, based on our biological wiring and the intersectional dynamics, crying for men is at their detriment to the relationship between men and the women. And also some men claim that you look weak if you cry, because that's a sign of weakness. And there's so many different perspectives on this topic, but I'm gonna explain to you why I am right and all of them are wrong. So let's take a look at the perspective that men should cry, because it's a rational emotional behavior. This sort of a perspective is driven from the ideology that thinks men and women are blank slates and they can be molded into whatever way you see fit. Now, you can observe this through that specific movement of crying is just a human emotion. You should be perfectly fine to cry, express your emotions, seek comfort in your spouse. Okay, cool. But the thing is that when you have set up the conversation in a way where expressing emotions equals crying and being sad, that's not how it works for half of the population. The general tendency for men is, if I feel depressed, if I feel sad, that means that there's something is wrong. Something in my life is malfunctioning. I need a solution. Crying is just an indicator that I'm losing control of the situation, which doesn't help me. It doesn't help anyone. So maybe, I don't think I'm an anomaly, but crying just makes everything worse if you're a guy. It just makes everything worse because you can't find a solution in crying. For example, if you lost your job, if somebody said something mean to you, you're not gonna automatically start crying. Now, that might work for women. They might actually even benefit from expressing their emotions in that sort of a manner. Okay, that's understandable. And that's completely fine. There can be two separate standards for how human beings deal with their emotions, the turmoil in their lives. That's completely fine. This video is a perfect example of how people have a surface level thinking and they can't dig any deeper than that.
Don't cry. Logically doesn't make any sense. Like, we're all human beings.
Not only that, but like there's girls who like want all this affection from a guy, but they're like, nah, but if he cries, no, like, you know, how do you connect the dots? Because if you want someone who don't cry, I feel like they don't truly know how to.
I know that there are people that want to cry, but the comfort you feel from being able to cry with a friend or with a partner is one of the best feelings of comfort.
Want all this affection from a guy, but they're like, nah, but if he cries, no, like, you know, how do you.
First of all, did these people know what affection means? Sitting there and crying has nothing to do with showing your partner affection. That's even the wrong word to use in this situation. Second of all, it's not logical, it's not rational. Again, the surface level thinking that only one standard can exist, which, by the way, social programming isn't even that strong. Biological programming is way stronger than social programming. So that when you say that it's irrational, based on what standard? Based on your standard? Just because you like to express your emotions in that sort of a manner does not mean that the male side of the aisle has to do the exact same thing to make sure that they are expressing their emotions to your liking. Like, what? This is insane. Okay, now let's move on to the extreme opposite on the other side. Now, the other side claims that any sort of a emotion or weakness is a sign that you're not this big, strong alpha male and you're gonna lose your girl. because you're acting like a soy.
I want to show you why crying is not a good thing for a man.
When's the last time you cried?
Are you trying to cry now?
No, I lost my best friend this year, so it's still been a hard thing for me. It's hard. I ain't gonna joke. That was my brother.
And then it was just like mildly uncomfortable.
Okay, this is a bunch of women who don't know you, and we have to learn to control our emotions. And I know people are going to say, no, he's a man, he should be able to cry when he wants, blah, blah, blah. The proof's in the pudding. He cried, they looked at him, they said, yeah, that's not for me. He went from top two to bottom two or bottom.
Mildly uncomfortable.
Okay, this is a bunch.
Mildly uncomfortable.
Okay, this is a bunch of women who don't.
Can you see that? Like the woman that was featured in the video. First of all, she's looking for a specific type of an individual, which you can consider him to be emotionally dead. Consider him whatever you want. That's her want in her partner, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, she wants something that operates like a robot. Okay, if your best friend dies, if a family member dies, and you shed a tear over that, and your spouse and your partner can't even grasp the fact that you're a human being with actual emotions, then yeah, it's perfectly reasonable to shed a tear. Because there's, mind you, the standard for any other situation would be to find a solution. In this case, there is no solution. It's done. That's it. You can't get them back. Shedding one tear is perfectly reasonable. Now let's take a look at how this sort of thinking translates into parenthood.
I got time for that baby stuff. Stop it. Stop the tears.
Let's have a little chat. Let's talk about big boys don't cry, but also men being vulnerable. And it stems from the same place. There's a stigma in society on men truly expressing their emotions. Women are the emotional group, while men are more stoic.
Okay, so this dude is also talking nonsense, so it doesn't matter what he says. Anyway, you can see that this one is an absolute psychopath. You can definitely tell a few things right off the bat. First of all, she's probably a single mother. Second of all, she's a psychopath. Third of all, she's a horrible mother. She's a horrible mother. Okay, there's a reason why it takes two parents. The dichotomy between the man and the woman for the child is extremely important. This video cements that for a fact. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that had two parents, or I'm the only one who has the ability to self-reflect on when I was a kid. But once you're a kid and you start crying for no reason, your mother comes to you to comfort you. You get that soft, warm attention, right? And then your father, the ones that's supposed to be the protector, the stoic figure in your life, comes to you and says, there's nothing to cry about. What, you scraped your leg? You did that multiple times. You didn't die. There's nothing to cry about. Don't make a scene. That's how the raising of young people, children, works. You have to show both of the sides. And then you slowly navigate them through why in this specific scenario, crying is not appropriate, especially if you're a boy, and why in this situation is perfectly fine. It's perfectly reasonable to expect that somebody's gonna shed a tear. For example, if a family member dies, that's completely rational. This woman right here, she's most likely a single parent, because we can take a look at the statistics. Single motherhood rate, the biggest issues. Why? Because dudes that grow up without dads, they're overly emotional. Now, what happens when you have a single dad? The kids become emotionally stunted because the dude tells constantly logical thinking. It's always, don't care about your emotions, think logically. Okay? That's why the dichotomy between the parent, the mother and the father is so important. And in this scenario, you can see when the female aspect tries to take on the role of the male. And what's gonna happen? The kid's gonna grow up with such a false perspective on how the intersectional dynamics work that it's gonna mess him up for quite a while. It's gonna take him quite a long time to get this stuff right. It also depends whether he even gets exposed to this sort of a line of thinking. People who disagree with the mainstream leftist ideologies are constantly demonized. So this sort of a perspective the one that's the most rational, takes into the account the social and biological reasonings, it would be considered as an extreme. This is not extreme. This is just pointing it out as it is. Okay, that's gonna be it. I'm pretty sure I covered all that I wanted. Pretty sure I covered everything that's important, and I'll see you guys next time. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.